Hi, hello, welcome back to the channel. So today I have another book review for you. You'll know what it is if you have looked at the title or thumbnail for this video, which you kind of can't not do. So I don't know why I'm giving any sort of suspense or build up, but it is Of War and Ruin by Ryan Cahill. This is the third full novel in the Bound and the Broken series. It is the longest. In fact, it's longer than, I think, Words of Radiance. I think somebody said it's longer than Words of Radiance. It's over 1,500 pages on Kindle. I read this physical copy, which is large enough that you could damage a small child or dog with it. I didn't test that out, but, you know, I've seen... I know how it works. So, The Bound and the Broken is Ryan Cahill's self-published fantasy epic. So he's currently got 3 books, 2 novellas, and there is a third novella that is about to release at the end of the month. And Of War and Ruin carries on from the previous books. So there's very little that I can say in terms of what happens in the book without spoiling those previous books. So because I like to, at the moment, I'm doing sequel book reviews as spoiler free. I have discussed in the Of Darkness and Light video and in a short that I posted to the channel today. Well, I don't know when this Of War and Ruin review is going to go up, but I posted it, I promise. I posted a short where I talked a little bit about my feelings on sequel book reviews. And my feeling currently is that they should be spoiler free. However, I think that my personal preference when watching sequel book reviews is for them to be spoiler filled. So if you either agree or disagree with me, please pop something in the comments down below. Back to Of War and Ruin. So I said in my reading wrap up, if you watched it for August, or because I finished this on the 30th of August, I thought that this was truly a 6-star fantasy novel. And I don't say that very lightly. I would say that 6-star reads are like almost transcending the medium and the form and the genre to a point where I can say that if you even if you don't love reading, this is a series that I think is that sort of thing that could rekindle that love for you. So if you, for example, have taken a big break from reading, then Ryan Cahill's Bound and the Broken is absolutely going to reignite that fire into you. So I actually took many years without reading very much at all, maybe 1 or 2 books a year. And then a friend of mine, Andre, got me into Sanderson's Cosmere, and that restarted that kind of regular reading habit. And now I'm, reading 30 plus books a year. However, Ryan Cahill, I think, absolutely, with this Bound and the Broken series, can do the exact same thing. I think that his characters are excellent. His world building is excellent. I love the magic in the Bound and the Broken series. We actually get a lot more of that magic in this book. You even get to see kind of some of the other types of magic that are available to magic users in the Bound and the Broken series, and getting to kind of understand that was excellent. There is in particular, and I'll divert a little here to say that there is in particular one scene that is around halfway through the book where a magic using character is kind of having to make this choice over whether they start using a different kind of magic that is viewed as kind of less pure and less good, and that other they end up having a very kind of meaning filled short conversation with another character, and I absolutely loved it. I felt like I was on the edge of my seat for that entire scene, and all it is a conversation in a room between 2 people, and I was completely hooked. I was on the edge of my seat. I think that my adrenaline was spiking by the time I finished reading it, and it wasn't even, there was no action, there's no combat, there's no nothing. And there's not even really a debate. They're just having a conversation. But the two characters that are involved and how that happens, just excellent. Absolutely excellent. Speaking of tension and adrenaline, the action scenes are better than ever in Of War and Ruin. Cahill has mastered kind of the Brandon Sanderson, everything is building, and then exploding at the end of the book. He also introduces you to a ton of new characters that are all excellent. You get some really cool returning characters. So obviously, you know, it's an epic fantasy series. Not every character makes it through every book. But in this one, a load of characters return from the previous novels. And one character in particular, there is a very, very different dynamic between for them because of their relationship with Kaelin. And getting to see that, and also the fallout of kind of a big death at the end of Darkness and Light, that you get to see that with the Knights of Acheron in particular, and kind of the change that brings through some of those characters. I'm trying to avoid using character names here purely because I feel like if I say, oh, and it was great to see Aeson in this book, then you know, for example, that Aeson lives through all of the previous books. So Aeson was just an example. Whether he's in the book or not, I won't tell you. However, yeah, I feel like that's a way that often people don't think it's a spoiler to say X person is in this book, but then, you know, that does actually quite heavily spoil previous books. So, Of War and Ruin, 6-star read. Probably my first 6-star read of this year. Ship of Magic was really excellent. Yeah, I think it might still be my first like proper 6-star read of this year. And other books that I would say were like proper 6-star reads, probably Oathbringer and Shadows of Self, the both by Brandon Sanderson, were like proper for me, like best of the genre. I love these books. Oathbringer is a sad one because you do have to read like a billion books to get to it, but it's worth the journey for me. And Of War and Ruin, even though you don't have to read so many books to get there, it is an intimidatingly large book. Every time I took it out of my work bag when I was in the office, somebody would comment on how big it was, and then I would show them how small the text was. Unlike a lot of books, I don't know. I'm just gonna kind of show you the. Here we go. This is how small the font is in this book. It's very, very small. It takes a while to read a page, and the print version is over 1,000 pages. But do you know what? I loved every single second. There's nothing. I don't think I have any negative feedback for this book, like literally any at all. There was one section of the book where some of the characters are traveling across kind of a desolate wasteland sort of environment, and while I've often found that sort of those sections in books to be kind of boring, Cahill managed to keep it short, but also still give you that feeling that they had been out there for a really long time and they had been really going through it, which I really loved. I absolutely applaud him. I don't think I've read any book where there's been kind of a long trudge through nothing and it hasn't ended up being with me thinking, oh, I wish they could have sped this section up a little bit. So, should you read Of War and Ruin? Yes. If you have read Of Blood and Fire, The Fall, Of Darkness and Light, and The Exile. All of them, even the novellas, are genuinely essential to the reading of War and Ruin, because for example, with The Exile, the Voltaran cast of characters and their civilization and society is really strongly built up in The Exile, and some of the narrative in Of War and Ruin does rely on that. You see a lot of characters, very minor spoiler, you see a lot of characters who are in the Fall in Of War and Ruin, and it's great to see those characters return and how they've changed over the past 400 years. And of course, you can't read book 3 in a series without reading book 1 and 2. So really, books 1, 2, and both the novellas are essential reading. The huge benefit to you is that all of those books are great. None of them is lower than a 4-star. And most of them are 5-star or closing in on it. So yes, it's a lot of reading, but it's a lot of fantastic reading. And I think that I would recommend this to pretty much everyone. The only people that, if you're a fantasy reader but you don't like high fantasy, so you prefer low to no magic, low fantasy sort of environments, maybe this one isn't for you. It is a secondary world fantasy, so it's not set in our world, obviously. It's set in another kind of alternate fantasy world. In that, if that's not really your bag, honestly, I would say still give it a try, because the series is really, really excellent, and it's not so the prose isn't so kind of poetic and lyrical and otherworldly. The characters talk like people, and they have conversations that sound like real conversations. They have friendships that feel like real friendships. And that's a massive, massive selling point for me personally. So even though you might not be a huge fan of the genre, I think that The Bound and the Broken is able to kind of cross that barrier a little bit by just being so accessible and fun to read, in the same way that if you read books by, for example, Brandon Sanderson, Stephen King, both of those writers write in a very accessible and easy, fun to read way, and Cahill is doing much the same here. So because this is a threequel now in terms of place in a series, I feel like that there's really not much more I can say without going into spoilers. So if you have read Of War and Ruin, please let me know. Drop a comment down below. If you haven't read it but you would like to read it, tell me what's stopping you. Really, let's just do it. Let's just drop all of our life's responsibilities and spend like 2 weeks solid reading an epic fantasy series. I can't think of anything better to do with your life. Pay your mortgage, yeah. Pay your rent, yeah. But no. Let me know what you thought. Drop a like on the video if you've liked it. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel for the review of The Ice, which will be coming later this month as soon as I read it. I'm planning to try and read and review it in the same day. The Ice is the next novella in the Bound and the Broken series, book 3.5. And I'm extremely excited about it. I've spoken to a few people who got to read it in advance of its release, and they absolutely loved it. So I'm really excited to bring that review to you guys and to read that book for myself. And also say goodbye to this yellow t-shirt, because I've batch recorded videos and I refuse to... I don't want to be that guy who changes between videos so it looks like I filmed them on different days. No, I filmed them all back to back. All of these yellow t-shirt videos, they're all filmed back to back. And then I will batch edit them and schedule them for the rest of the week. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video and the previous ones that I've recorded. And if you have a recommendation for a book that I should read, whether it's a self-pub book that I should be adding to my self-pub September TBR, or it's just a book that you've absolutely loved in the fantasy and sci-fi genre. I do like urban fantasy as well, so don't feel you can't recommend that. And now that the Dresden Files, I often said as an urban fantasy, is one of my favourite fantasy series of all time, maybe my favourite though now I do think The Bound and the Broken may have surpassed it. I think The Bound and the Broken might be my favourite fantasy series of all time, with Of War and Ruin. So, as I say, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.